Thank you for listening to this teaching from Casa Baptist Church, located in Garland, Texas. Our mission is to love God, build relationships, and change the world. To learn more, visit casaviewbaptist.org.
Well, guys, it's usually during this time that we play a bumper, and today I'm your bumper. Bumpers are about telling a story. Today's teaching is on patience, waiting for God. And that is hard. I don't know if you think it's hard, but I'm telling you, for me, it's hard. Especially when I'm hurting. So when I'm hurting, and I need to trust God and wait, I revert. I told a story a few months ago. A pastor goes to visit a young mom, and her two sons were just gunned down on the streets of Chicago. The bus stop waiting to go to school. And the pastor looked at her and said, "Sister, what can I do for you?" And she said, "Can we worship?" He said, "Do what?" She said, "It's time like this that I need to worship." This week I'm at the hospital and sitting next to a wife and a daughter, and the doctor just said, there's no hope. We can keep him on machines for a couple of days. And she looked at me and like, what do I do now? So I started singing. Yesterday, as we were going to do the honor walk, Shelley went with me, and we're sitting down waiting for the doctors to come and get our friend. And she said, "Carl, I'm going to show you my book," and it's her journal. And she had written in that journal, the doctor said there's no hope. Brother Carl started singing, and she had written out that song. She looked at me and she said, every day I've been looking at that song, thinking about worshiping God. So this is my song that I sing when it's tough. Sometimes I fall to my knees and pray, "Come, Jesus, come. Let today be the day." Sometimes I feel like I'm gonna break, but I'm holding on to a hope that won't fade. Come, Jesus, come. We've been waiting so long for the day you return to heal every hurt and right every wrong. I need you right now. Come and turn this around. Deep down I know this world is not home. Come, Jesus, come. There'll be no war, and there'll be no pain when Jesus comes. Let today be the day. He'll come for the weak and the strong just the same, and all will believe in the power of your name, Lord. Come, Jesus, come. We've been waiting so long for the day you return to heal every hurt and right every wrong. We need you right now. Come and turn this around. Deep down I know this world isn't home. Come, Jesus, come. One day you come, and we'll stand face to face. Come and lay it all down, 'cause it might be today. The time is right now. There's no need to wait. Your past will be washed by the rivers of grace. Come, Jesus, come. Come, Jesus, come. We've been waiting so long. We need to return to heal every hurt and right every wrong. We need you right now. Come and turn this around. Deep down I know this world isn't home. Come, Jesus, come. Come, Jesus, come. Come, Jesus, come. God, I thank you so much, God. In this room, there are people that have either gone through what I'm talking about, or you're in the middle of what I'm talking about. And here's the worst one. If you've not gone through it, or you're not in the middle of it, I just want you to know something. You ready? It's coming. Because you see, you can't learn faith without trials and testing. Today from Exodus 32, I want to talk to you about when faith requires waiting. Now, I know you don't want to hear it, but you're going to get it, okay? Exodus chapter 32, verse 1. When the people saw that Moses was a long time in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods, so we will go. Who will go before us?" And the fellow Moses brought up, Moses brought us out of Egypt. We don't know what has happened to him. Aaron answered, "Take the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing." Okay, all right, just stop. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a picture of a slave? I have. Okay. Have you ever seen a picture of a slave wearing gold earrings? How about a slave who gives their kids, their sons and their daughters? You know, I made so much being a slave this week, I want my kids to have gold around their neck and on their ears. Some's not right. Bring them to me, Aaron said. Sound like Joel Osteen. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I apologize, Joel, for saying it publicly. So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him, made it into a gold idol cast as the shape of a calf, fashioning with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." Not Yahweh, to the cow, to the bovine. You know, now that hamburger meat's $8 an hour, I mean, we might be going through that again. But anyway, so the next people rose up early, sacrificed burnt offerings, presented fellowship offerings. Afterwards, they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt." Oh, do I need those? Probably do. You know, James left my notes up here. All right, cool. Where are we? Verse 8, "They have been quick to turn away from what I've commanded them and have made for themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They've bowed down to it, sacrificed to it, and said, 'These are the gods of Israel who has brought you out of Egypt.'" The question I had is, how long was Moses up on the mountain? 40 days. Can you imagine getting married and husband or wife has to go off, and they get an assignment outside the country, and he comes back home, and she's expecting, and he said, "Wow, when are you due? I've been gone for 6 months." She said, "Well, I'm due in 3. Do the math. And the question is, how long did you wait? When I look at this text, God brought them out of Egypt, through the Red Sea, destroyed the Egyptians, had the plagues. The slaves ended up, all of them having gold jewelry, and God's going, how long did you wait? Was Moses up there 3 years? A month and 10 days. 40 days. Now, here's what I want you to know. Number one, when excuses become our reality, they become our goaler. Now, I know that all of you know what a goaler is because you studied Chaucer in Middle English history, right? A goaler is a Middle English made-up word stolen from French. G-A-O-L, goal, is French for cage, and so they needed a word. Instead of jailer, Chaucer used goaler. Now, here's what I want you to know. You ready? Excuses become your trap and your cage. Talk to anybody that's gone through addiction. A person that's addicted, whatever it is they're addicted to, always has a bunch of excuses. How about this? It's not hurting anybody. It doesn't cost that much. I can control this. I have a right to do what I want. All these are excuses. Now I want you to think about this just for a moment. God brought them out of Egypt from slavery, and in this text, what did they want? They wanted to go back to slavery. Notice verse 1. We'll read it again. When the people saw Moses was long and coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come make us gods who will go before us, as this fellow Moses who brought us out of Egypt. We don't know what has happened to him." And Aaron said, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, your daughters are wearing." He took them, they handed it to him, and he made it into an iron cast. Here's the thing. It blows my mind. Not just the people, but the preacher. You see, the truth is, it's easier to feed people what they want than to teach them what they need. You see, the truth is that if you can get God to do for you what you want, He's not God. So what's easier, to trust in the God who's sovereign or to make your own God? They took the fortune of Egypt and they turned it into a cow and they worshiped it. Really? Why? You can put a ring in a cow's nose and put a chain in it. No matter how big that cow is, you can just lead it around wherever you want. I had a bull once that liked to get through the fence. You know how you get a bull to stop going through the fence? You get a ring and stick it in his nose and attach a chain to it. And I won't tell you what, he might jump out of that one time, but when that chain catches that barbed wire and it rips that nose down, you know what that bull's going to do? He's going to break your fence trying to get back in, and he'll never go to another fence. Why? Because he knows there's someone that's smarter than he is. You see, the reason why people make their own gods is because when you make your own God, you don't have to have faith. If you serve a God that does everything, all you've got to do is pray and do certain things and act right, and God will give you whatever you want. I was sick at my stomach. I heard a preacher preaching 1,000 and said, "God, you know, it's busy this Christmas season, and I want to get into the mall real quick. I want to buy my wife a pair of diamond earrings." I thought, you know, if I'd had a jewelry store, then I could have called him up and said, "Listen, there's a place right there in front of the door." He said, "Lord, I don't have a lot of time. Will you open up a parking spot on the very front row?" So he's praying as he drives in. The parking spot's right there on the very front. He said, "I walked right in, bought my wife some earrings, and I said, God, thank you. Because your word says, delight yourself in the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart." See, I want to tell you, that proves when God opens up a parking spot, He'll do it for all of you. And I'm going, I don't know if that means that. God led them in the wilderness, didn't He? He brought them to that spot, didn't He? He parted the Red Sea, didn't He? They walked across. The Egyptian army came through. He piled it back on them, killed them all. But my question is, God brought them there, and now the people are going, you know, Moses led us out here to this spot. There are a lot of things you and I have to ignore about the past to give ourselves the permission to make the God of our present. You see, there's only one need that you have, one thing you need for faith. You know what faith requires? Faith requires patience. Without patience, there is no faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. What did God promise? That He'd free His people? Had to happen? Check. Teach them to trust God? Obviously that hadn't happened yet. Judge Egypt? Yep. See, the truth is, they were not going to learn faith without being a place where they had to trust God with patience. This is not going to happen. Great faith doesn't come without process. How do we get faith that leads to patience? Paul tells us in Colossians chapter 1, verse 9, for this reason, since we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. We continue to ask God to fill you with knowledge of His will through the wisdom and understanding of His Spirit. You see, the truth is, you and I, we get faith when we strive to know God and we listen to His Spirit. How do you do that? You worship. You trust God. You open your heart. You open your mind. You begin to pray and you begin to praise. Verse 10, here it is. So, he said, you do this. You study God's word, you pray and you praise. So, in order that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please Him in every way. Now we know it is impossible, without faith it is impossible to please God, according to the book of Hebrews. To please Him every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. What do you and I do? During those times when we don't understand, when we don't know, we simply ask God, not just for the answer, but for strength and persistence to endure the test and the trial. God, would you help me trust you? Help me trust you, God. In the grand scheme of asking God for things, you think God is more concerned about you parking in front of a parking lot, or that you have strength to trust God through difficulty? Really? A lot of you are like me. You don't need to park in the front. You need to park all the way in back because you need to exercise. Am I not telling the truth? Ask God for strength. Verse 11 of Colossians chapter 1, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that you may have great, what? Endurance and, help me now, help me, come on. What's that last word? Patience. Oh, Lord! I need some patience. In my garage a couple weeks back, and I was having a tough time. Things just weren't jihawing. And my neighbor was knocking on my garage. He said, Carl. I said, what? He said, man, you okay? I said, yeah. He said, you're a little loud in there. Now, you'd understand, this guy drives a tricked out Harley with the sound all the way up and comes home at 11:45 at night, and you can hear him 5 blocks from the house. And he's telling me that I'm being loud singing in the garage. You ready? The more the trouble, the more the anxiety, the more need for patience, guess what? The louder my worship gets. Sometimes you just got to cry out. Don't believe me? Colossians chapter 1, verse 12. And giving joyful thanks. What is joyful? Whew. Yes! You mean I'm supposed to celebrate while being patient? Yes, that's why it's faith. The dog's dead look is gone. You don't celebrate what you're going through. You celebrate what God is going to do tomorrow. Giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of His holy people in the kingdom of light. What is that inheritance? Love, joy, peace, patience, meekness, gentleness, heaven. Guys, I want to let you know something. And I'm not cussing here, but I'm telling you right now, this is as close as you and I will ever get to hell. And some days you and I are just at the door as a believer, because there's coming a day that we will bust through the gates of heaven. And that's why I love to sing, Come Jesus Come, because God, I want there to be a day that you demonstrate your glory and your power and your might and your majesty, that you demonstrate, God, that you're God. You see, the truth is that a lot of the things that you and I are going through that require us to be patient, God put them there. God put them at the base of Mount Sinai for a purpose. To test their faith. Guess what? They flunked. What would have happened when they came to the preacher? And the preacher said, you know, I know it's bad, but it's during these times we need to trust God. We need to celebrate. Remember, it was just a few months ago that God brought us through the Red Sea. He could have said, remember when I spoke to Pharaoh when Moses told me to, and the Nile turned to blood. Remember when that happened? That's what the preacher should have done. That's what your godly Christian friends should do. That's what we do to each other. We remind each other of what God has done so that we can be encouraged about what God is going to do. But instead, the preacher said, show me some money, and I'll give you a God that you can accept. Paul said there's coming a day that people will have, they'll desire preachers that will tickle people's ears, what to tell them what they want to hear, because it's so much easier. It doesn't require faith. You see, the truth is sometimes you and I, you and I need to accept the possibility that sometimes the things you're going through are there for a purpose. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 7. Praise be to God, the Father of Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion, the Father of all comfort, who comforts us in what? In all our trouble. You see, you and I will never experience the true comfort of God till we're in trouble. He'll give you comfort when you're not in trouble, but I'll tell you what, when you're in trouble, that comfort gets real. So that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. And I want you to just leave it there just for a second, please. Now, here we go. You ready? You and I go through stuff so that we can learn to trust God and experience His comfort in our faith and grow, so that when people around us are going through stuff, we can go up to them and say, you know, I've been there. God is God. God wants to prove that He's God in your life. You not understand that? As I was sitting with Scott's wife the other day, I said, sweetheart, I've been here. Nurse asked me, said, what do you do times like this? I said, ma'am, I know you. Jeff's nurse was Scott Hallball's nurse at Presbyterian. And she looked at me and she said, you've been here before. I said, yes, ma'am, I have. Do you understand that many of you will never be any good for the people around you in their troubles until you have conquered your troubles? You can't say, I've been there and God has proven himself unless you've been there and God's proven himself. Why do they connect a covering alcoholic to a guy or gal that's in recovery? So that you have the ability to say, I've been there. I know what you're going through. I did it with God. You can do it now. Paul said that's the way we do it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, 1, verse 4. Verse 5, for just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. God comforts us in our trouble when we trust him. Verse 6, if we're distressed, it is for your comfort and salvation. If we are comforted, it's for your comfort. Paul said, the stuff that I'm going through and have been through, it's so that I can be there for you. How many times did Paul tell the story of being in prison, chained, Paul and Silas, when he was at a new church trying to tell them about Jesus? You can trust Jesus. He said, there's one day Paul and Silas, when I were in sheer prison, we were chained. They were going to kill us. And the ground began to shake. And I heard angels begin to sing. And the locks busted open. And the door opened up. And we began to walk out. And the guys that were there to kill us if we were escaping bowed down and said, please don't hurt us as you walk out the door. I can tell you, my God is God. That's what Paul's saying. How can you testify about God's grace and his mercy and his faith if your faith has never been challenged? But I want you to know something for you whose faith has been challenged. It's time for you to stand up and start worshiping and helping people worship going through difficult times. Because if you don't, during difficult times, if you don't offer them a God to serve, they will make a God that will serve them. Verse 7, our hope is for you is firm because we know that just as you share in our sufferings, you share in our comfort. What does the other side of patient endurance and faith look like? What does it look like on the other side when you and I said, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. God, no matter what, I'm going to worship God. What does it look like? Romans chapter 8, verse 27, 29. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit because the Spirit intercedes on God's people in accordance to the will of God. That means while you and I are going, oh, God, what am I going to do? God, what am I going to do? God, what am I going to do? The Holy Spirit of God is going, all right, God. Now we get to show the world how awesome we are through them. You know that God desires for people to look at the way you trust God and for people to go, whoa, really? Yeah, really. The other side of it, and we know. What does that mean? It means I have experienced it. I've got a PhD in what it means to trust God, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. Paul said, you know what? It's not a story I read in a book. It's a story I lived out with God. I know, because this is my experience, that all things work for the good of those who love the Lord and call according to his purpose. Notice verse 29. For those God foreknew, he predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. That means that God knows ahead of time what you're going to go through, and he has a plan of what he wants you to look like on the other side. And God and his Spirit are going, come on, come on. You know, kind of steal that children's story. Come on, you can do it. You know the little engine that could, I think I can? That's hogwash. You know what the biblical story is? I believe I can. I believe I can. I believe I can. I believe I can. I don't know how God can, but I know he can. I believe I can. God, help me hold on. 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 That you'd be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. You ready? This is the preacher verse. My favorite pastor of all who's gone on to be with the Lord. He said, this is God's verse for preachers. Let us not become weary in doing good. King James says, in well-doing. How you doing? Doing good. No. Paul is saying, don't get tired of doing good. There's a lot of difference in doing good. And I'm doing good. Sometimes doing good is saying, okay, God, I'm just going to have to trust you. For at the proper time, at the proper time, at the proper time, at the proper time. I left one hospital to go to another hospital Friday. Dear sweet friend of mine, going to be having surgery. Alzheimer's patient. I walked in the room and he just started smiling. Shelly and I prayed with his wife and with his kids, and I walked up to him. Matter of fact, he's the only deacon in 42 years of the pastorate that has ever cussed at me while I'm preaching. And I reached down to hug Dennis Tubb, and he started crying. And as I kissed him on his forehead, he said, I love you. You could offer me $1 million right now. The largest church in America, and I would turn it down. Because that man recognized me. Told me he loved me. I wouldn't trade that for anything. For all of you who went through our transition and changing and all the things and building the building and doing things that they could never, We had 3 banks say, y'all were never going to be able to pay for it, and turned us down. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, when the time is right, we will reap a harvest. If we do not give up. Sitting down with the head of the president of the Baptist General Conviction of Texas and going through some things, he said, Carl, I guess, I would be willing to recommend you to pastor other churches. Well, no, I'm just trying to help. How do I? He said, man, the school folks have left and the people who want to stay here have left, and y'all are never going to be able to do it. And, the best thing is I can recommend you to some churches, out in the country, but just go lick your wound somewhere. Sometimes following God, the easiest thing you'll ever do is just quit. A lot of people do. Aaron quit. He was the mouthpiece for Moses. And when he wasn't around Moses for 40 days, he said, show me the money and I'll make you a calf. We'll make this thing easy. We'll have a party. We'll get drunk. We'll dance and we'll have a blast. That's easy. The most difficult thing for him to do would be to say, I am Moses' spokesperson from God, and until Moses comes down off the mountain or the cloud or the fire moves, we're staying here. Would they have killed him? It's possible. Would they have listened to him? I doubt it. When people want it to be easy, they want it to be easy. But you know what? The book of Exodus would be completely different if he would have. I want you to hear me, okay? Hear my heart. Every single adult that looked at Aaron and said, make us a calf, also voted just a few months later not to enter the promised land. And every single one of them died, having never put their feet on the soil of the promised land except for 2, Joshua and Caleb. Sometimes doing the will of God means nobody else is going to follow you. Sometimes it means you're not going to fit in. Sometimes it means the people are going to say, man, that guy's crazy. Sometimes it means people are going to say it doesn't fit into my theology. A lot of times people are going to say it's too hard. But you have one choice. Do not grow weary in what? In doing good. I want you to know I'm praying for you and I love you. All these years, you guys have brought so much joy to my heart. And the greatest prayer of my life is that every Sunday I get up, I would challenge you to take the next step. For some of you, that next step needs to be today. You need to get off the fence and get at it. Quit the excuses. Cut the junk. Be the person God has called you to do. Stop wasting time. If you'd like somebody to pray with or talk to, I'll be hanging out in the back.
It is for the one